So here are our survey results. 8 freshmen, 24 sophomores, 22 juniors, and 5 seniors. Thanks, juniors, also. Really nice. Okay, first question was, I understand what SGA does and have an idea of what students are involved in it. Most of you guys who are in the 4 and 5 category are fewer the lower end. 1 is obviously strongly disagree, 5 strongly agree. SGA is effective at communicating needs of the student body to the administration and faculty. Again, it was mostly towards the high end. There were a few people on the lower end. SGA is transparent in its activities. This one was a little bit more skewed. There were a few who were really low, and then a few more who were high. You can also see those things. SGA does a good job promoting student involvement. And now for our opening statement. So we'll begin on this end and go down. Good? Okay, 2 to 3 minutes.
Well, thank you everyone for coming, and thank you to the Bonaventure newspaper for hosting this tonight. We have a great opportunity to talk about the future of St. Bonaventure University, and more importantly, our student body. We are at a defining moment here at this university. With declining enrollment, budget cuts, and a brand new charity, we need experience and leadership now, more than ever. Tonight, we are not going to lie to you, we're not going to tell you what you want to hear, and we are not going to give you empty promises of what we cannot deliver on. We are, however, going to tell you the truth about SGA and what has happened over the course of the past 5 years. You see, SGA has suffered a lack of transparency and communication. This has taken a toll on our student government and on our student body. This lack of transparency and communication led to the dismantling and exploitation of our Constitution. We were shocked and disheartened to discover that this had happened, but we acted quickly and swiftly to ensure that the Constitution would be properly amended and ratified by the entire student body. SGA acted in accordance with the Constitution and made 95 amendments to our Constitution. This was democracy in action here at St. Bonaventure. After learning about the Constitution, we took necessary steps to ensure that SGA be as transparent as possible. We started by making sure every single budget expenditure was approved by our Senate and that our Senate was informed of all executive board decisions. As we continue to grow the transparency between SGA, our student body, and one another, we plan to hold weekly SGA meetings during the common time. We plan to hold more open office hours, and we plan to create a new website for students to visit so they may voice their concerns, suggestions, and ask questions. In doing these things, we will have more opportunities to hear from our students, addressing their issues and concerns, to be sure that we are working alongside our student body. In our term as Secretary and Treasurer this year, it has become very clear that the biggest threat to our student body is apathy. This apathy exists because there is misunderstanding. In the past, the proper time has not been taken to properly understand the duties, issues at hand, and most importantly, one another. JW and I have been working in SGA for a combination of 6 years. We have fought for our student body in all areas of life here at St. Bonaventure. We understand that what our SGA needs moving forward, and we understand the importance of the voices of you as members of our student body. At the conclusion of tonight's debate, we are going to ask you to vote for us, to represent your interests next year, to vote for the understanding you need, and to vote for the experience that will be able to do it. Thank you.
Gonna stand up. Okay. We all know the SGA does a lot of hard work, and a lot of you guys are part of the SGA. But as I was going around campus and I was talking to students, knocking on doors, many of you I've seen and talked to, asking about their concerns and what they knew about the SGA. A lot of times people didn't know who they were being represented by. Some people said, what is the SGA? And a couple of them said, who is the SGA? And I think that's one of the biggest problems that the SGA faces here on campus today, is that no matter how hard you work as a representative, you need to know your constituents, or I believe that all that hard work has gone to waste. And as SGA president, I want to rebuild that. That's why I'm going around talking to students. Some things students have relayed to me that they think are important. They're talking about 24/7 food services. Nothing big, but they're saying maybe a little sandwich bar for between the time Catholic Vernon closes and the dining hall open, just so when people are getting back, they're drunk or they're tired, they can get a little something to eat. A lot of those ideas, simple, cheap, and really no reason not to implement them, are out there. And I think it's important that if you're going to represent the student body, that you listen to them. People have talked about safety. A lot of people remember when the lights would not be on. And a lot of students don't feel safe walking in the dark. And I understand that. And I didn't realize that until I started going around and talking to students. They said they understood that the college is working towards fixing them, and hopefully they'll stay fixed. Now, I haven't seen them off at all since I've been back this semester. But if stuff like that happens, safety concerns, that an email is sent out, and maybe other parts of the campus that are well lit, like the Skeller, can be advertised for. Hey, go there. That's a well lit place, and it'll keep you from getting to that part, going out to gardens and being like, hey, this is creeping me out. People have talked about how cold it gets on campus, and how there should be certain measures that the college takes, that when it gets cold enough, gets down around 0 or so, that certain parts of campuses that you can park overnight should be open, like they're saying to Richter, especially when there's no games on. People talking about simple issues, things that can be fixed with a swipe of a pen. And as SGA president, I want to take those ideas and more ideas, and I want to implement them to the whole student body. And hopefully, you'll vote for me. Thank you.
I'm going to need to use the microphone because I can't talk as loud as Noah can. Sorry, everyone. I'm Annalise Quinlan, and I'm running for president. This is my vice president, Gabby Slavny. We're running for one reason, and that is that we love Bana, and we want what's best for it. We aren't running to put something on our resume. We aren't running because it's in our 5-year plan. In fact, we never planned on running until a few months ago. What we did plan on was being a part of SGA and helping students through SGA. We've been on SGA for years, advocating for students in their interests as senators at large. These past couple of years have allowed us to see how SGA works, what's been tried, what the administration will allow us to do, and what can be accomplished.
Next year, we hope to work with the entire SGA and the student body to accomplish all of our campaign promises. This includes our campaign promises such as Bana's for She and Protect the Bubble. And we also plan to continue SGA's relationship with Embrace Africa and the Race Matters campaign. We look forward to the opportunity to serve as our student body next year as your president and vice president. And we'd also like to thank everyone for coming out here tonight and for the Bonaventure for hosting us.
Before we begin with our first topic, very quickly, candidates, we ask you to reach a set of questions. As you're asked a particular question, please just have one member of your group answer that question. And also, please be respectful of the time given to the others to speak. Let them finish speaking within their minute. Then you'll, of course, have a chance for rebuttal. And we do ask during this stage of the debate that you do please remain seated while answering questions and while others are speaking as well. And so we'll start now on the far end from me, Annalise and Gabby. The first question regarding safety and wellness. Simply this: what is the number one aspect of St. Bonaventure that needs to be improved, and how will you improve it?
Good question. I think first off is just the being outdoors. Now, let me explain because that sounds kind of simple. Right now, actually, Bonaventure is under code for the blue lights that should be on campus. We should have one more with our population in the area we have. And also, we all know that everyone goes into Allegheny on the weekends, and everyone comes back on the weekends late at night, and oftentimes people miss the bus, or it's too cold and the bus isn't running. As a senator, actually, I brought up that fact, and next month, CAB will have a student tweeting on the bus where the bus is in town, so hopefully that will help with safety. And I would also like to improve the lighting out by gardens and townhouses. For those of you that walked back at 1 o'clock in the morning after the library, it can get a little dark, and visibility should be improved.
Thank you. Would Mr. Burke, would you like to respond, or JW Justice, or response to that? We move then, Mr. Burton, same question. Number one aspect of St. Bonaventure that needs to be improved, and how will you improve it?
Thank you very much. I've been designated driving since my freshman year. Many of you probably have given rides to. And what I've seen is that a lot of students are out, they're drinking, a lot of them are of legal age. And I believe that one of the key ways to improve it, we talk about being out late at night, being out from campus. What we must work on is improving the Skeller. If we increase the population of people going down to the Skeller, being able to have a good time there and go just like they do at any of the bars like the OP or the Burton, then you'll negate many of these issues that are faced by students. Cold weather injuries, bad relationship with the town, and fights out in the town. All of those can be improved by improving the Skeller. It will allow for a protective system that we have here, MERT, to actually take care of students. If you get drunk out on the town, you got to worry about your friends taking care of you. You don't have RAs or RDs that are looking for those types of injuries. And I want to make sure that as much as possible, students are encouraged and want to stay on campus so that the safety of the campus-wide student population and the opinion of the town improves. Thank you.
Any other rebuttals here?
Not a rebuttal, just an answer to a question.
By all means.
I agree with Noah and with Annalise both on both of these issues. Lighting is a huge issue, and this year lighting was down for a while. The minute that happened, we contacted the Safety and Security Director, Gary Segru, and we were told that the lighting would be fixed immediately, and it was fixed immediately. We had those communication lines with Safety and Security, and we continue to have those communication lines. Jess and I are both RAs here on campus, so safety and student wellness are at the top of our list. I agree with Noah that the Skeller is a wasted space for the most part. We don't use it often enough, and that's why this past semester, Jess and I, along with a team of senators and representatives from SGA, launched a Skeller initiative to improve the space. You'll notice we took the railings out. We added more lights down there. We moved the TVs so that more people would be concentrated in one area, making this a better space. Now, an entire Skeller overhaul costs a bit of money. We've been reaching out to donors and taking a look at what that would look like in the next 2 or 3 years to get something like that implemented. But overall, keeping students on campus and having fun here on campus far outweighs putting our students out in harm's way in Allegheny, where they are forced to walk back if they miss the bus or an issue like that. So student safety and wellness is at the top of our list, and we've already been working towards it this year. Thank you.
Any rebuttals to the statements made? We'll move on then to question 2, and we'll go to Mr. Burton in the middle. How will you increase students' well-being and their sense of safety?
Thank you. I think it's about increasing communications between students, and that's what I want to do. I've been talking to students, asking about how they feel on campus about these issues, and that's where I came across the lights, the Skeller, making sure the blue lights are put on campus. All those issues were communicated to me, and I want to make sure they're fixed. But also, students, as myself included, I feel most safe when people are responding to me, when I feel like the campus cares and when they're listening. And I want to make sure that every student does. And they understand that they're not alone, that their issues are not going unheard. Because that's what creates this element of, suspicion or lack of safety. And that's what I want to change. Because when you see someone on the trail and you know them, just as out in town and you know them, you feel safer. And being part of a team as part of ROTC, MAL UN, and other groups is you got to take care of each other. And that's what I want to foster. I want to foster this type of environment where you see another student who may be struggling or who needs help. And we already have that on campus, but I want to build it even further so that you can not even recognize the person, just recognize that they go to St. Bonaventure and help them along. Maybe pick them up and give them a ride home in the cold. And that's what I want to build. Thank you.
Response to the question, how will you increase student safety and well-being?
Okay, so as JW had mentioned before, we both are RAs and have been RAs for 2 years. And as far as student safety, we know that like the back of our hand. And I think a big thing as far as increasing that is getting people aware of the resources that they have. So we are here, we are that stepping point for getting them help and making them feel comfortable, and what are the next places for them to help them reach out and get them acquainted with the help that they might need. We are that stepping point, and we are here to make them feel comfortable. And as Noah had said before, getting people acquainted, making them feel comfortable, caring, that's the community we have here at Bonaventure. So how do we branch that out more? And as RAs, we have been able to do that.
You can lead again.
Well, there's a couple things that I have to say about increasing the well-being and the safety security on our campus. I think overall we do have a pretty secure campus. We're in a pretty secure location, but there definitely are some concerns. One thing I would like to do is create an initiative to have better relations with safety and security. I feel that I don't know many of the security officers here, and I think it would be good if we had them posted somewhere so people could feel like they can contact them when they're in need. And also, along with that, I would like to publicize more of who the RAs are and a little bit about them so people feel comfortable going up to RAs that maybe aren't their own RA for help or just any sort of guidance. And that could be either like postings around campus or postings in the RA office. And that's it. Thank you.
Moving on to our third question, we'll begin here on the end with JW and Jeff. What have you done or what do you plan to do, either having served time in SGA already, or your plan for what you would do in the future as appointed president and vice president? What do you plan to do or what have you done about sexual misconduct on campus?
That's a great question. Sexual misconduct, again, is an issue that affects all students here at St. Bonaventure in one way or another. This year, Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul came to campus, and I had the pleasure of actually introducing her and speaking with her about this for a brief period. We spoke about the It's On Us initiative and the Student Bill of Rights. The Student Bill of Rights is available to every student here at St. Bonaventure through Rick Tritley's Office in Student Affairs, and that Bill of Rights is for sexual misconduct cases. Again, it's at the top of our priorities for RAs. We take it very seriously. We want to make sure that all of our students are aware of their resources here on campus when it comes to sexual misconduct. It happens far too often, and again, it's something that is often not public, but the timely warnings that are sent out realize that this does happen on our campus. We're not immune to it. We've taken an initiative to make people aware of these resources that they have, and we'll continue to do that in the future.
Well, first off, I think most students don't know who our Title IX coordinator is, and that's Sharon Burke in the HR department. And that right there is signable. If someone were to walk up and ask a student who the Title IX coordinator is and they did not know, the university could face a fine. So I think first off, we need to increase ways students can contact her, because a lot of students don't know who she is, don't know how to get in contact with her.
That's likely not going to happen in the next year or in the next 5 years. So if we were president and vice president, we would like to encourage the clubs on how to fundraise for themselves and for them to reach out to donors. A club that we are in leadership positions of the College Republicans, we sent out letters to all of the people that have been in the College Republicans when they were students at St. Bonaventure. And we got a great response from that, and people really wanted to donate to keep this club active. So if clubs did that for their own clubs, they would likely have a similar response. And already the clubs are heavily supervised on what they spend their money on, so I think SGA does have a good handle on that.
And so the third question for the category, which is what you discussed earlier, JW, is going to be, how do you plan to manage and balance the student activity fee? And you get
So again, managing and balancing this, the last two things I spoke about, a mandatory student activity fee for graduate students. Right now at your university, graduate students do not pay anything for the services they have here. They don't pay for Wi-Fi, they don't pay for printing, they don't pay for parking or anything really. Parking actually isn't part of the student activity fee, but they don't pay for the necessary fees that you do. You're footing the bill, all of us. We're all footing the bill for graduate students here at St. Bonaventure. They don't pay anything. If we were to make a mandatory graduate student activity fee, a low one, that covered the base services that all of us are provided, we could increase our student activity fee and reallocate money out to SGA. So that right now, we are at a $100,000 deficit, we'd be able to shrink that with that. We're also looking at listing line items on your bill, so you know exactly where your money is going, how much is going into student wellness, how much is going into the Richter Center, how much you're paying for your athletics tickets, so that way you can see that, and we can raise it or lower it according to what the students want. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that it's important that we work on managing the funds, and we do have an accounting major on campus, so I do think we do have the facilities to look through the budgets of these clubs. But a big draw to a lot of grad students is the fact that we have zero student activity fee. And as a student here, is you have to weigh. Are we going to lower enrollment for our grad students because we have a student activity fee? And I think the answer is yes. And I think that's going to hurt us because the issue is not enough people aren't paying student activity fees, enough people aren't coming here and paying for enrollment. And I want to make sure that we don't cause a decrease in enrollment in our graduates because we start adding a student activity fee. Also, I want to make sure that the budgets for the SGA, for the CAB, I want to make sure that, like I said before, that it's followed and it's tracked. Because we need to follow each budgets so that the line items and all these other issues are correctly categorized and we make sure it's not being wasted. And I think that we need to prevent that so that as our enrollment reduces, and I believe it will increase, but as it reduces, our tracking of the budget follows also. Thank you.
Gabby and I would also support a mandatory grad student fee. Right now, if you jump through a lot of hoops and talk to a lot of officials, it is available if you really want to pay it. And that should absolutely be mandatory for grad students because they do use our services. I don't think it would decrease enrollment in grad school because there are other factors that factor into when you're picking grad schools besides student activities.
It's going to take us to our fourth category, and with that, Mr. Girl will keep this one right here. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So going into the next section, the fourth category, we'll be discussing equality-based issues on campus and what you guys will be doing to combat those. So moving into the first question, we'll start on the far side of the table with Ms. Quinlan. And the first question is, how can you improve equality on St. Bonaventure's campus for the school board?
I think just awareness and understanding where other people come from. There is a large white privileged population at St. Bonaventure. There's no denying that. And I think there's a lot of other people of other races and other backgrounds that should be more understood and should be respected more honestly. Race Matters is a wonderful campaign that we would love to continue. It brought a lot of great conversations to campus. And we'd also like to start a new one for gender issues, #BonusForShe. It would focus on women's issues domestically, internationally, and then also subgroups traditionally ignored by other circles of feminism. I think that the best way to address this would be just people need to understand each other, and like what Noah was saying earlier, is just respect each other. Respect people as humans, and this is a community, it's the St. Bonaventure community. We're all part of the Bona family, and I think that these campaigns can help people better understand that.
Mr. Burton?
Thank you. I think we all know for a fact that you're not supposed to be racist or sexist. And if you haven't, you've learned it when you came to St. Bonaventure. The problem is when it comes to application. And that's where the dialogues come in, is when you can take what you think and what you believe, or what you know, or you think you know anyways, and you can discuss it with other people, and learn how to discuss it respectfully, and in a way that it brings greater understanding instead of hate and intolerance. Because we all know, but we don't always know how to apply it. And that's what I want to see on campus. We'll talk about race, we'll talk about gender, we'll talk about homosexuality, the phobias, all the phobias, Islamophobia, and so on. And I believe that it's about this dialogue. And you've seen on campus, it started off small and then it's grown and grown and grown. And I've seen a lot of you people there. And it's important that we continue this, because it's about respect, and it's about listening to people. Thank you.
I'm going to skip this one. So this year, obviously our hashtag Race Matters campaign, great for dialogue, great for getting a lot of those conversations that we haven't been having but needed to be having, get those going. Secondly, moving our Damietta Center for Multicultural Student Affairs, bringing that over to the Riley Center where Parker Suddeth, our coordinator, his office is upstairs, bringing those over here so that that's a more central location for all of our students. And thirdly, with our new Constitution amendments, one of the committees that we added in, it was the Diversity Committee, and now it is the Equity and Inclusion Committee. And with that, it's a committee that can confer on race, gender, sexual orientation, all sorts of equity and inclusion concerns and like that we can confer on.
All right, now we'll move on to the next question, this time beginning with Mr. Burton. And that would be, how would you accommodate campus programs to incorporate those with diverse sexual orientations and genders?
Thank you. As I've discussed with students on campus, that they want to have classes, maybe gen ed or maybe some minors like the women's studies minor, that follow these different issues of diversity, from sexual orientation all the way to race, and they want to see those classes, and they want to be educated in depth, not just through a one-time PowerPoint that they'd rather be sleeping or playing video games or drinking through, but an actual class that they can take for credit. And a lot of people have discussed interest in that. And I want to see and make sure that those classes are available for students, because I want to learn more about things that I might not be informed upon, and these classes through a college setting I think will really help the student body. Thank you.
Mr. Cook, this question.
With this, again, this program that Noah's talking about, we've actually talked with the Faculty Senate about this. We've talked about adding this into Claire, or what will become a new gen ed program in the future. The Faculty Senate is completely on board. They understand that our students want this. They understand the need for this with race matters, and with gender issues and sexual orientation issues as well that are happening here on campus. So they would like to implement this, and there's already talks of this. What we're looking to do, though, also is through this Equity and Inclusion Committee, having a dialogue on the SGA level, which then can branch out to other committees in areas here in student life. If we were able to do that through our Equity and Inclusion Committee and have these dialogues as student leaders, we could affect change not just in the classroom, but also in the residence halls and also in our clubs and activities. Because as we all know, that's where change truly happens sometimes, right there.
Now back to the end of the table.
Going back to our Bana's for She campaign, the third part of that is to address needs of people that are typically ignored, and that includes the LGBTQ community. And so that's a big focus of ours, is to work with people with any kind of sexual orientation. And also we would like to enable groups that are already on campus and allow them to have events that will help educate, not allow them, but to promote and help advertise them to have events that will educate students more on inclusion.
We're going to move on to the third and final question of this category. And that would be, how do you plan on expanding the Race Matters series and involving more of the student body? And this time we begin with Mr. Cook.
Well, this year I spoke with Parker Sudduth, again, the coordinator for the Damietta Center for Multicultural Student Affairs. I'm glad he's with us tonight. I spoke with him about having a round table, and that round table developed into this Equity and Inclusion Committee. This committee is vital to our student body here at St. Bonaventure, and it's vital to continuing Race Matters, maybe a program like Bonus for She, or another program focusing on LGBTQA issues. If we could have a round table where all of our students from the Damietta Center and other students here came and talked about these issues, we'd be able to affect change on a very smaller level that would branch out and become even bigger, and that's what we're trying to do.
Mr. Burton?
Could you please repeat the question?
Yes. How do you plan on expanding the Race Matters series and involving more of the student body?
Thank you. As you've seen, as many of you seen, the Race Matters dialogues are very successful, and I want to make sure that those occur as often as possible. I want to expand them to gender-based, and gender-based is not just, men, women. Students have been well educated about sexual misconduct. I believe we've all gone through lectures. I've gotten through my fair share too, and I don't think students need another lecture, because we have those. We already have that system set up, those PowerPoint slides and so on. I think it's important that there's dialogues. We have the Race Matters dialogues. And the problem with a lot of these things is that a crisis occurs, and then the school goes to action, and they create some sort of system, but then it goes away. And we have to wait for another different crisis to occur for this thing to build. Or it goes the other way, and it turns into a structured, lectured system. And I believe the best way to improve relationships between any group, men, women, minorities, whites, homosexuals, straights, is talking, discussing. It's being able to take what you learn and being able to put it into action, and be able to respect every individual on campus. And you don't have to agree, and we all know that, but it's about respecting each other. And that's what sexual misconduct is about. It's about a lack of respect, and that's what we need to foster on campus. We need to make sure that we understand we're part of a team, that we need to work together, that we need to look out for each other. And that's what I plan on building. I plan on continuing discussions about race, but also about gender. Discussions that will build relationships that bring us together, not drive us apart. And that's what I want to do. I want to see everyone come together, and when they see something, they need to say something, and they need to talk to people and be like, hey, that's not cool. Because everyone has seen it. Everyone's seen it at parties. Someone's gotten a little bit too drunk and a little bit too handsy. That's wrong, and you need to stop it. And we need to create that culture of respect. Thank you.
If I may, while dialogues, again, are very important, they're at the core of what we're doing here. We need to continue to talk about these issues. We can't just push it aside and wait for another crisis to occur, but this needs to be a continued dialogue. And I believe that all of our students every year should be educated on this, not just through PowerPoints, but again, through those dialogues that bring us together where we can understand one another and understand that respecting someone in that state of mind when they're out is vital and important. Just not having these conversations and, saying that the PowerPoint is enough, it's not enough. We need to continue to talk about these issues here on campus.
I didn't say that the PowerPoint was wrong. I said it was inadequate, and that we need to have those dialogues, and I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Kansas. We'll move on now, for the time being, from the issue of safety and security, certainly something that could be revisited. Those of you that might have questions, especially now after hearing our candidates speak, if you have questions, there will be, of course, a session when you can address each candidate individually, and we ask that you please do so. But we'll move on now to the second topic, that is transparency. And the first question, we'll start here on the end with JW and move on down. Give an example of how you would increase SGA transparency, how you would allow the students of St. Bonaventure to have a better understanding and a clearer picture of exactly what the SGA is doing on a day-to-day basis.
Sure. So SGA makes a lot of decisions daily. One of the big problems this year, though, is the irregular meeting schedule. The Senate doesn't come together every week. It's meetings that are bi-weekly, and sometimes they're thrown off with the schedule that we have with breaks and whatnot. Next year, we would propose a weekly SGA meeting with a time that everybody knows and a place that everybody is familiar with. This way, it's not just SGA members coming together and talking about the same issues. We'd have students that would be able to come and sit with us and talk about these issues together as a whole body. We'd sit together and we'd be able to inform you of all the budget expenditures, all the decisions that are happening when the Senate isn't in session. And, you know, this is streamlined through communication. Better communication is key right now, and we saw that with the Constitution and what happened there. A lack of communication from leaders prior, 4 or 5 years ago, has had effects on SGA that we're just feeling now. Communication is key, and that's what we'd be building with transparency.
Thank you. We move to Mr. Burton. Your response, how will you increase transparency of the SGA?
Thank you very much. I have already increased transparency of the SGA. As I went around, I've talked to people, I've educated them about what the SGA is, what my office would be, and that they actually have class representatives. I've also made sure that I listen to them. Transparency isn't just us throwing out words at students. It's about also getting that feedback. It's a two-way street. It's a dialogue. And that's what I want to create. I want to create a dialogue. And I also want to make sure that the representatives, the class officers, the club officers are held responsible for their club or their class, so that they go to their class and be like, hey, this is what's going on. What do you guys think? And they'll be able to go back. But too many times I've heard of students not knowing who the representative is, and I want to change that. That's how you fix transparency. It's about dialogue, it's about conversation. Simple, cheap, going to the people and talking to them. Thank you.
Like Noah, we've also worked to already increase transparency this year. Gabby and I worked with the other senators of the SGA Senate this year to have open town hall meetings, where if you couldn't make it to our bi-weekly meetings, you could come have pizza with us and tell us any concerns you have. Those are pretty successful. We might have a new minor coming out of it. Stay tuned. One specific thing that we could do next year, though, is to just send the meeting minutes right to students. I know we already get a lot of emails with the notice board and the announcements, but I mean, the SGA minutes are on SBU right now, and a lot of people already don't look at those. So if we send them right to their inbox, at least they have the opportunity to open it and say, hey, this is what happened at the SGA meeting today. I don't like this. Let me go to the next one. I think that's one specific thing that could be done next year.
Thank you all, and we move on now to the second question, in the middle now. How do you plan on making sure that the Student Government Association's board, the appointments to that board, are a fair and impartial process? How do you make sure that you limit the amount of politics that goes on and keep things fair and student-focused?
Thank you. What we'd have to do is we'd have to make sure that it's not someone who's appointing their friend, or someone who's trying, or someone who's pushing an unqualified person. It's about making sure that these people have resumes. So if they're going to be appointed to some position, that they have a sort of leadership potential and quality that they've exhibited. Every student has opportunities on campus to be a leader, to get out there and to show that they have the right stuff, to not be based on their student perspective or their friend's perspective, but all students that they represent. And if I'm appointing some students, I'm going to make sure that it goes through that process, that I take comments from the student body and from the student senate, and make sure that when it comes to an appointment, that students who are put in those positions are actually qualified for them. And it doesn't take a lot, but you want someone who's dedicated. And a lot of students here, and a lot of students who aren't in the SGA, are very dedicated to the club or organization that they're in. And I want to see the college succeed, and I want to see those individuals succeed for their hard work, and that's the type of individual we want for any appointments in the SGA. Thank you.
For the last appointment process that we did, the executive board appointed the people, and then they had a short maybe 1-minute introduction of themselves, and then we went along with the vote. So I would like to change that process just slightly. I would like to open up the suggestions to the senators at large, the senators of clubs, and class officers, and keep in mind what they have to say and who they would like to represent them. And then instead of just a quick 1-minute introduction at a meeting that maybe some people couldn't have even attended, they would let us get to know them better and why they're qualified and why they would like to do it. And I think that would give us more information on the people that we are voting on instead of just who they are, where they're from, and what their major is. Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely agree with what Gabby just said, opening up that conversation about who we will be appointing to the different positions amongst our entire board, our entire Senate. This year, we actually appointed Noah and 6 other justices to our judicial branch, so that's why Noah is sitting up here tonight. So definitely opening up those conversations, but all of those appointments are confirmed by the Senate, so it has to be an approved vote by the entire Senate. So not just the board that will make it, but there'll be a conversation that we can have, and then they will make the final choice.
And our final question, on the topic of transparency and better student understanding and involvement with SGA, is this: how would you change the relationship between the SGA and campus media? A little bit of a shameless plug, being a member of the campus media, the BB. How would you improve the relationship between not just, of course, the BB, but all campus media and the Student Government Association?
Well, I think that's a great question, and honestly, we love when the media shows up to SGA. We love making headlines. I mean, good publicity is the best thing for SGA. This year there have been a lot of headlines, some of them bad, some of them not so good. Again, the Constitution, knowing that that just fell through the cracks 4 or 5 years ago, and just discovering that now, we were very happy that we had campus media there keeping us honest and keeping us in line with every choice that we made. Our campus media is one of our best resources, and our doors are always open to them in the meetings and in our office hours as well if they come and have questions. So.
Thank you. I want to make sure that the campus media, especially the BV, is included in email streams when it talks about, hey, there's a meeting, we're discussing this. These are the topics. And bring up topics that the BV or other campus media will want to cover. Because it's important that the student body is able to know what exactly is going on. And it's about, this is where the transparency comes in. Because obviously you can talk to students, you can communicate with them, but that's from your voice. And you need a third party, you need the BV coming in. And although I don't think I need a media source to keep me honest on anything, I do believe that it's important that the BV does look into everything we do, because students care about these things. As we've seen with the charity, a lot of students did care about it when the BV reported. And that's one of the avenues that the SGA can get out what they're doing and make sure that the students are being represented. And when you hear that outcry of something that goes wrong, or the praise when something goes right, that is when you know you're doing your job as a representative. And I want to make sure that I can hear as loudly as possible that disapproval or approval as SGA president. Thank you.
Well, I think one thing that hopefully we won't have a lot more judicial appeals, but one thing a lot of people don't know is just last week, 2 tickets at this table right now had judicial appeals concerning their eligibility. And there was no one in the press in that room at that time. So I think one thing that we can definitely improve on is having someone from the press who can help with that transparency in the room for the appeal, just so students know what's going on, know the decision, and know exactly what's happening. Second, I think that we can also encourage our press to talk to different members of SGA. A lot of the times the press will ask someone on the executive board, which is a good opinion, but there's also a lot of different opinions in the Senate and with class officers that should also be heard from. So maybe just encourage them to talk to different people, to different classes, and get all the opinions.
And just to, off of what Noah said, all of the media do get emails about the SGA meetings because all their club leaders and the Big Five, the Bonaventure is part of the Big Five, so they get all the meeting minutes and meeting agenda, so they are aware of the meetings, and we encourage all of them to come so that they can get our voice out to all the student body.
Thank you all. We'll move on now. And as we change topics, we also change moderators. Some is good, more is better. Here's Corey.
Okay, and before we begin the third round of questions, just want to reiterate, and for the sake of time, that we have 1 minute for your responses and 45 seconds for rebuttal. And we ask that if keep your rebuttals to if another candidate directly addressing you in their answer, just for the sake of time, because we do want to have an open question and answer with the audience. And Lauren and Eddie here will be keeping time, so they will motion to you when you have 10 seconds left with your answer. Thank you. So our third category is probably the most popular category from the survey. It's the club funding and budget questions. So our first question, we'll start with Annalise and Gabby. It's going to be, how do you propose to stabilize club funding with enrollment steadily decreasing?
I think the first thing we'd have to do is start fundraising as an SGA as a whole. Right now, everyone in SGA knows classes fundraise for their own classes for events, and you need that for all the events that the classes themselves put on. But if we want to have SGA as a whole sponsor events, we'd have to start fundraising on our own. Right now, SGA fundraises just for charity, which is awesome. We should definitely continue that for Embrace It Africa, our new SGA charity. But I think we'd also have to start fundraising.
No.
Thank you. I think it's important that we make sure that clubs are doing all that is necessary to stay a club. There's a charter and there's rules, and we are getting back on track with making sure those are enforced. But one way to make sure that clubs get the money they're due is making sure we take clubs that are not following the rules off the rolls. And that will help the budget. I also think that doing fundraising is important. We need to make sure that we build up SGA as an organization. And I don't believe it's being used to its full potential as a political device and as a fundraising device. And if we can use that, if we can build it up like some of the clubs I've seen around and other organizations, like they fundraise, we won't have any trouble with funds for clubs. Thank you.
So I'll try and keep this brief. As SGA treasurer this year, we noticed something, and it continues to be a problem. Everybody pays a student activity fee here. All of you pay $945, I think it is right now, to the student activity fee. Now that contributes to student wellness, safety, tech services, your D1 basketball tickets, your Richter Center, everything. The very bottom of that, after all that has been taken off the top, there's a section for clubs and activities, and that's a small allocated fund out of that $945. That money is drastically decreasing with declining enrollment. In our heyday, we used to have a student activity fee that was huge, $250,000 back in our heyday. Since then, it's decreased. We are now at a point where to operate with all of our clubs and activities and allocate all the money out, we need about $130,000. Right now, we're looking at $30,000. That's a $100,000 deficit. I'd be interested to hear what the other candidates have to say to fix that problem.
So I think we are going to address that with one of the upcoming questions. But first, our next question is, do you have any specific goals for the budget, and what are you going to do to try and increase the budget? We'll start this one with Bella.
Thank you. Well, I want to make sure that everyone's getting their dues to start with, and I want to make sure things are being spent correctly. There's a large cost to spring weekend, and I want to make sure that, like, tens of thousands of dollars, and I want to make sure that all that money is used wisely. Is it going to tater tots or balloon castles? We need to make sure it's all annotated correctly. We need to make sure that the clubs are also annotated correctly. We can't just be writing blank checks and being like, here, go have fun. We need to make sure all this money is being used because enrollment is declining. And the only real way to fix it without drastic changes is to increase enrollment. And the best way to do that is to work with students and make sure students go out and they recruit their friends from high school. And that is the best way, easiest way to make sure our funding goes up. But while we're working on that, we need to make sure that all the funding that's being used is being used correctly, and it's being used efficiently in the way that the SGA says it should be used. And as SGA president, I will make sure that that the system is transparent and that all funds that go out are not blank checks and they're written and annotated correctly. Thank you very much.
Getting back to that, you can't expect SGA to go through every single budget expenditure for every club. That would take years. What we do is we allocate money out at the beginning of the year. So CAB gets about 46% of the allocated budget. Now that's mandated through the business office. The Campus Activities Board needs that money to run the activities that they have on campus. That costs about $30,000 alone for spring weekend. Now that's the amount of money that will be allocated next year. Now this is a huge problem, a problem that is going to continue.
High school or lectures just one way. We'd like to make it like interactive, and there already is some drunk driving like simulation that they do, I think yearly on campus, but we'd like to do more of that and really have this be a well-promoted event and for all students to know about this, because it is really important, because there's a lot of death and injuries that result of drunk driving.
Thank you. And final question. How can SGA increase student involvement in campus activities? JW, Dr. Sarkis.
I think one of the best ways we can do that is making sure that these clubs are adequately funded. Again, going back to our budget, next year we're projecting that CAB won't even have enough money to put on spring weekend. CAB is responsible for 90% of the activities here on campus, and without them, we're going to be at a very big loss here for student activities and student events that are put on here on campus. That it should be our #1 priority in promoting student activities here, is making sure that they're adequately funded.
Thank you. And Mr. Getty?
First, we'd like to open the communication with students and make sure these events are something that students would want to attend and have interest in. And second, as a part of the marketing department here at St. Bonaventure, I recognize that it's a very successful department and they have a lot to offer. And I think we're underutilizing what we could get from the marketing department. There's a lot of classes. There's classes that are advertising and even event management. So we should reach out to the professors and the students in those classes to better advertise the events on campus. Because I think sometimes the lack of attendance at these events is because of a lack of communications to the students.
Thank you. And Noah?
Thank you. It's about doing things that students want, and it's about the dialogue. We need to look around at other colleges. We don't have to take shots in the dark about certain events. We can look at other colleges around us, similar size and similar culture, and look what's successful for them. What type of events are things that they go to, and what type of events are things that they don't go to. And as SGA president, I want to bring that in. You got to bring in the outside, but you also got to bring in the inside too. You need to build that dialogue, that communication, and ask these students what's important to you. And when you do that, you're going to have success, because you're listening to these students, and when they see the response, they're going to respond in kind too. Thank you.
All right, so that wraps up the part of our debate. We're going to move right into our question and answer session. As it says on the screen, audience members, if you have a question, just raise your hand and someone will come and hand you a stick mic. Once you have a stick mic, please state your name, your major, and your year, and then proceed to ask your question. Now I'm going to turn things back over to our MC, Dan O'Neill.
So we've already had a question submitted over Twitter, and the question is, how would you fix the judicial system to avoid potential political pressure? We'll start with Noah.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
We actually discussed this when we were trying to put in new amendments to the Constitution, suggest them. And one of the suggestions was making it a longer than 1 year appointment, 2 years, 3, maybe even 4, to better protect the Judicial Board from any political pressure. Currently, the Judicial Board is a 1 year appointment, which means that every time elections roll around, it becomes a very politically charged atmosphere, where if you bring a case to the judicial board, they could feel that their job is in jeopardy if they rule against whoever is going to become president or who will be elected to the student senate. And I want to prevent that. I would like to see the student senate propose that amendment at least 2 years to prevent this type of system and create an overlap so that not the whole judicial board is being appointed every year. But all I can do is ask the student senate to propose that amendment. Thank you.
Annalise, you got it?
Well, all three presidential candidates were on the Constitutional Revision Commission this year, and that was a big topic of discussion. The Senate did not like the 4-year amendment which was proposed. I felt it was too long, as did I personally. As president, I would support a 2-year term. That seems reasonable and fair. But ultimately, it's up to the Senate, and we're not going to stand up there and tell them what they have to do. Hopefully, a senator can write an amendment to change it to 2 years.
Thank you, and
I see a few judicial board members that are actually in the audience right now. And a few of these judicial board members and the rest of the CRC, all of us, actually most of us sitting here, sat on it for the entire time. We sat and we discussed this possibility of this amendment. The senators shot it down. Why? I don't know. Maybe 4 years was a little bit too long. We were imagining it kind of like a Supreme Court idea where they'd sit their entire time at Bonaventure and avoid any bias whatsoever, so that when decisions did come, like eligibility decisions, they wouldn't be biased in any way possible. That was shot down. I would like to see at least 2 years, at least a judicial board member sitting there for 2 years, so that we can avoid those potential biases when we move on in the future.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Okay, that's good.
This is the fun part.
Hello everyone, I'm L.B. Hayes. I'm a marketing major, senior, I guess you say. I guess my thing is, I've been on SGA for 3 years now. I worked with Jess and JW for 2 years, and I worked a lot with Annalise and Gabby as well. And this year, I think a lot of the people on SGA that are here now can kind of say like this year was a little hostile with the Constitution, revision. I know some members aren't even doing SGA next year because they don't feel comfortable, they don't think it's fun anymore. So I guess my question for you guys is, how can you make SGA fun again, or what are some programs you plan to implement, or events or fundraisers you plan on doing?
Who can start? I think we'll start with Annalise and Gabby.
Okay. Well, Aaron Bolello had a great idea for us, and that was to implement a program within SGA for all of us to get to know each other better. And I think that's a great idea because I've sat on SGA since the spring of my freshman year, and there's, you know the faces of everyone, but you don't know the names or where they come from or pretty much anything about them unless you work directly with those people. So I think it's very important to meet each other, because when you know someone on a personal basis, you have more respect than someone that is just a face that passes by you.
Justin,
Completely agree over there, getting to know everybody a little bit more, because we are familiar faces, of wide campus of familiar faces, but even more so this year we worked to rearrange our office and get a really good office space so that it can be opened up to our entire SGA Senate. So opening up so that everyone can go down there and have a place for whether it be committee meetings or just class officer meetings or a place to study and hang out, building that space so that we have a common ground and a good atmosphere within our SGA. Because yes, this year was very, very tough, and there's no denying that, but we are working to get back to the basics and getting things going again.
Mr. Burton.
Thank you. I believe that a lot of the hostility that has been felt came out of the constitutional revision concept, the actual fact that we're following the Constitution and that we will hopefully write bylaws in a orderly manner. But I believe that it's important that we get to know each other. And I've been to as many of the SGA meetings I've been to. I've seen students, they come in, the meeting begins, talk, they leave. Some leaving early. And I want to make sure that communication between individuals, between clubs and classes happens. So what are we going to do about it? I want to make sure that we have maybe at the very beginning, we have like a little social. Get to know each other, no stress, no policy points, just all the newly elected individuals coming together, little pizza party, and that is what will increase communication and hopefully diffuse any hostility that has been created from making sure that we follow the Constitution. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Ooh.
We want to start a queue. Okay. All right. So we'll have David. Sorry. I'm sorry. Is that wrong? I don't know. Whatever. That's like a word, so whatever. Okay. So we'll go David, Jackie, Jeffrey, Aaron, and then like. Sound good? Did I miss anyone? Oh, Rachel. Sounds good. So I didn't. Oh wait, up there. Okay. Yep. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is David. Like LB, I've also been in SGA since freshman year, and I've worked closely with all but Noah, experience there right now. And I guess my question is, through my experiences with working in SGA, I've seen a lot of candidates making a lot of empty promises. I don't know if anyone in here is aware, but the positions that they're running for are very, very big positions. They're very time-consuming and whatnot. And I guess my question is to alleviate some of that stress, the stress of holding those positions. Do you plan on utilizing more of the existing SGA members, whether it be senators or more involved with class officers, to kind of alleviate some of the stress that you guys have with those kinds of positions?
Okay, we'll start with Jeff and David.
I definitely think that we are going to use our senators and class officers next year. Rose is sitting here tonight. Rose is the president of SGA. Yes, round of applause. Rose, Trish, Jess, and I have worked as a team this year, the four of us. And Rose will tell you that this job, whether you're the president, the treasurer, the secretary, it's all the same workload. One position doesn't have any more work than the other. We work as a team, we work together. That being said, though, it is still a lot of work. We need to use our senators more. We need to use our class officers more to alleviate some of that stress. And this year, through the Constitutional Revision Commission, we came up with 6 new committees. These committees will confer and they will alleviate stress for the executive board so that all of our senators and all of our class officers can be heard. Thank you.
Hey, Noah?
Thank you very much. As a member of ROTC and a member of Mile UN, I've been part of bureaucracies. And I've learned when to delegate things to people when it is their job and their responsibility, and when to take responsibilities that my office should hold. And I have experience in that position. And as SGA president, I'll be ready to immediately delegate things that are not my duty to do. And I will make sure that I do my job